Alright, you are listening to However podcast. This is the episode 2 of the series of podcasts, and today's episode is going to be about MMA, UFC, and some of the upcoming fights for my favorite fighters in 2021. Now, MMA or mixed martial arts in general is a compilation of various disciplines of different sports that are combined together, joined together, and they form what we know and call mixed martial arts. Now, these disciplines include karate, judo, wrestling, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, boxing, and many others. There are many different organizations of MMA in the world, but the one that has the most eyes on it is UFC, or Ultimate Fighting Championship. There are 3 cards actually coming up in 2020 in the month of January, which is going to be Saturday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Now, the first card is on 17th of January, which is going to be Sunday here in Abu Dhabi. Now, they have created, during this whole pandemic, they have created their whole island. They've captured the island, and they've been putting up the fights throughout the pandemic in 2020 on this island, and it has been nothing but a blessing to watch and to actually appreciate UFC or Dana White on doing such a great job. Now, Dana White actually is the president of UFC, just to let you know. Okay, so the first card is the main event of the card is Max Blessed Holloway versus Kattar. I'm going to just discuss a lot about this card, and we'll go in depth about who is fighting on the card and what actually means to the rankings in further or the future of these fighters. Now, the other card is on 20th of January, which is Magny versus Michael Chiesa. Amazing fight. And the next is going to be on 24th of January, which is going to be the return of the Notorious Conor McGregor versus Dustin the Diamond Poirier. Okay, so now these all matches includes around 10 or 9 fights on that particular day. It starts off with the prelims, and then comes as the main card and the co-main events, and then the main event. Now, this is the process. This is actually the way they follow the fight night, right? So let's talk about the first event that is going to be on January 17, which is Max Blessed Holloway versus Kattar. Now, this card actually is not great, or it was actually not great till the moment they added few of the new fighters. Now, I'm going to start off with the main event, and it has 5 fights which we know. So the main event starts with a middleweight bout between Punashil Soriano versus Dusko Todorovic. I'm sorry, I mess up a lot of names. Now, this main event is going to be cracker because these both are undefeated fighters, and I don't know, when there's an old saying, somebody's O has to go. Now, I think that this card, I've not watched both of these persons or both of these fighters before, but I could say that this is not going to go distance. So this is a 3-round fight, but this is not going to be something that this is absolutely not going to go distance. I assure you that, because both of these are coming off a good both of these are stand-up fighters, and Soriano is more of a grappler, but yeah, I don't think this is going anywhere near to a decision. Now, the other fight onto this card, or the next fight, is a middleweight bout between Joaquin Buckley versus Alessio Di Chiriso. Now, Joaquin Buckley is 12-3 and in his mixed martial art career, and Alessio is 12-5. That means he won 12 fights and lost 5. Joaquin Buckley is coming off one of the craziest knockouts of the 2020, or actually of the UFC history, where a guy just grabs his leg and he did a rollover and just kicked him in the face or in the jaw with another leg, and that was the spinning back heel kick onto the face, and that was one of the things that Joaquin Buckley did, and he got actually the knockout of the year of 2020, and I think this bout is again, I think Joaquin Buckley getting it done in first or maybe in second round, because he got 2 knockouts, in the last 2 fights, and I think that would be a fight to watch. Now, there's another next fight is on into the welterweight division, and which is going to be the return of Santiago Ponzinibbio, who is a great prospect in the welterweight division, but he's been out due to the injuries. His last fight, I guess, was against Neil Magny, where he won via knockout, and he just knocking out Neil Magny into the face, and Neil Magny hitting the canvas. So I am pretty excited to see this guy, because I think he is a championship material. He's so good. His stand-up is good, his grappling is good, he just has, and he's so good and so strong that it's going to be pretty exciting to see him back into the octagon. Now he's facing Jing Liang, who's 17-6 in the UFC, but he's not been somebody who he's good, he's great. He actually varies his styles, goes orthodox, and then tries to close the distance. But I think that would be again all dependent on the Santiago, if he's, or Ponzinibbio is, if he's himself what he used to be in the octagon, like before the past 2 years. So I think this is going to be a great fight. I think I'll have Ponzinibbio winning this fight via knockout or via TKO. But anything can happen, because if you don't fight often, you get rusty. If Santiago Ponzinibbio gets this win, he'll probably be somewhere in top 10, and yes, definitely between 5 and 6 and 7. Yeah, he'll get that position. So the co-main event is Carlos Condit versus Matt Brown. Both of these these fighters are veterans in the UFC. They have been around for a long time, and I think this is going to be, again, this might go the distance, because both of these are pretty old in there, and they've been doing it for so long. And I won't call it a washed up fighters, but yeah, I think Carlos Condit definitely is one of and Matt Brown, actually both of them are, so not pretty excited about it. I would watch it, but I think this is all dependent on what they want to do in future, and I think whosoever loses this probably might get cut by the UFC in 2021. So just good luck to both of them. This is actually career defining fight for both of them. Now the other fight and the main event of this fight, which is I'm extremely excited about, is Max Bliss Holloway versus Calvin Kattar. Oh man, before I go to Max Holloway, Calvin Kattar looked so impressive in his last fights, man. Beating the likes of Jeremy Stephens, beating the likes of Dan Ige, and the way he beat Dan Ige and Jeremy Stephens, man, he knocked, or he TKO'd Jeremy Stephens with the elbow onto the nose, man. That was crazy to watch, and it was in the Fight Island, and then he beating up Dan Ige actually in the Fight Island, excuse me. So this guy has gone on to prove that he is a dark horse of the division, as Joe Rogan says, and his style is more boxing oriented, and the way he moves, the way he rolls out with the punches, and pretty fast. He has these snapping jabs, and I think this version of Calvin Kattar has to be somebody to look forward for in 2021 if he surpasses Max Holloway, which to me, I am a huge fan of Max Holloway. And his last 2 fights, he lost to the Australian champion Alexander Volkanovski, and I think Max Holloway won the second fight, the last fight he had on UFC 251 card on the Fight Island around July, in the July actually. Now Max Holloway is actually considered as a GOAT of the featherweight division, which is 145 pounds division in the UFC, and Calvin Kattar is I guess he's ranked 5th or 6th right now. So now Max Holloway is 21-6 in the UFC, or in the total in the MMA career. Calvin Kattar is 22-4. Now that being said, Max Holloway's last 5 fights had been for the championship, and if you are a main event and if you are fighting for a championship, the rounds, the total number of rounds in that fight is 5. Now, when you are somebody who's reluctant to go 3 rounds, and if you're a champion, or if you're fighting for the championship, or if you're in general fighting a main event, you have to dig down deeper and get to 5 rounds, which is no big deal, man. And each round is 5 minutes, so imagine you just pacing yourself, the brain, the physical activity that is required for 25 minutes of that time in that octagon, and also considering the fact that the person just in front of you wants to just knock you out, or wants to submit you, choke you out, or kill you. And actually it doesn't happen, and I hope that it doesn't happen, but yes, that person right there in front of you is trying to kill you to earn what is there on the line. So I think this would eventually, I'm taking this, and I'm making sure that this fight will go 5 rounds. And I'm thinking, since I'm a fan of Max Holloway, I love Kattar, I love his fighting style, I love the way he comes up in front and he is not afraid. So I think this fight goes 5 rounds, and I think Max Holloway winning it on the scorecard of the judges. And I think it's going to be cracker of a fight. There's going to be so much stand up that. And yes, there will be knockdowns for sure. Max Holloway, actually, this is a fact that he's never been knocked down in a fight. So I think this is going to be a great cracker of a match and cracker of a event to watch. And I'm rooting for Max Holloway. Now, the second card on the Fight Island is January 20th card, which is been headlined by Michael Chiesa versus Neil Magny. So there's not much on this card except for the fight in the women flyweight division, which is the second fight of the night, and that is Roxanne Modafferi versus Viviane Araújo, maybe, yeah. So Roxanne Modafferi won her last 2 fights, which one was against Macy Barber, who was actually been considered as a great prospect for women's flyweight division. So she won that fight, and she's coming up a good confidence now, and she's a side of gives up this nerdy vibe, and she's great with her stand-up, she's great with her ground game and her just the work around she does around the fence, but I think that is going to be again something that I think that is again going to be a good fight altogether. Probably go 3 rounds, because Modafferi is a 3-rounder fighter. She tries to win on this judges scorecard, but I think that could go 3 rounds. Now the co-main event is Warley Alves versus Monir Lazzez. Warley always won his last fight, so I think, and then Lazzez is a prospect who's coming up of great victories, and he's 10-1 in the UFC or in the MMA. Why I keep using UFC? Okay, so he's 10-1 in the MMA and looked great. So this is going to be a decider of getting into this top 15 position in the welterweight division. Now the main event, so that is one of the most talked about fight in the grappling industry, or in the grappling aspect of the MMA, which is Michael Chiesa versus Neil Magny. Now Michael Chiesa is more of a jiu-jitsu and a grappling guy, and Neil Magny is also a grappling guy, but he's not grappling heavy. He's actually more of volume striker. He comes to the face, and and he has most victories, guys. This is a fact. He has the most victories in welterweight division. Now Michael Chiesa won his last fight against, I think it was against Matt Brown, or I think it was against, forgive me if it was against Diego Sanchez. And Neil Magny won his last fight against Robbie Lawler, where he looked flawless, man. And I think he won his last 2 fights in the row. So Neil Magny and Michael Chiesa, great fight for the fans, and actually great fight for the grappling industry, and yourself into those mix of, you know, somebody's in the top 6, 7, 8, 9 positions. I think Neil Magny is top 10 and Michael Chiesa is probably 9 or probably 11. I still mix up my rankings, and who knows the rankings. Okay, so this is going to be a good fight. This is probably going to be a 5-rounder, and actually it's a 5-rounder, but this will probably go to 5 rounds. Just looking at these guys, how they fight, Michael Chiesa looked good in the welterweight, but he hasn't fought somebody in the top 10, man. He fought Diego Sanchez, and before that, I think, or after that, he fought Matt Brown. So both of these fighters are not in their prime, so I want to see him fighting. You know, this fight actually is so good for Michael Chiesa if he says what he is, and he has a good record, 17-4. So I think it would be a good fight. But Neil Magny is no joke, man. Though these two guys look thinner and look slimmy, and they don't have the muscle, you know, those muscle packing muscles. But yeah, they are very skilled when it comes to MMA. Now the next card, which is going to be on 24th of January, and that is the 257, the UFC 257 card on Fight Island, headlining Conor the Notorious McGregor versus Dustin the Diamond, or now he calls himself El Diamante, Poirier. Now this card is amazing. Top to bottom has 2 women flyweight or women strawweight fights, and then I'm very excited about the co-main event, and also there's a featherweight fight. So this is about the main card. So let's talk about this card in general. Now it starts off with the main card starts off with the women's strawweight division, where Mariana Rodriguez versus Amanda Ribas. Man, if you haven't watched these ladies fighting, I want you to go ahead and watch their fights before you go to the UFC 257 card and watch them live. Now, Mariana Rodriguez and Amanda Ribas, man, these ladies are legit. They are so good. Amanda Ribas is a wizard. I actually call her, in my own terms, I call her Ryan Hall of women strawweight division, man. If you don't know Ryan Hall is, or who Ryan Hall is, he's a fighter in the UFC, but he's extreme good with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is all about, you know, choking you out, grappling you. And so Ryan Hall, and I call her Amanda Ribas the Ryan Hall of women's strawweight division. She's so good. Her last fight was against Paige Van Zandt, where she actually just couldn't let Paige Van Zandt win, and had to and probably if Paige Van Zandt would have beaten her, she would have negotiated with the UFC and probably gotten a good contract. But she lost that fight, and she had to. Now she's in another organization, which is Bare Knuckle, and that we'll probably talk about Bare Knuckle in some other videos. Now, Amanda Ribas versus Mariana Rodriguez, amazing fight for the fans who actually like these women putting up a work. I am a huge supporter of women in the mixed martial arts and women in general in all the aspects of lives. But yeah, man, this fight is to be watched out for and probably to look forward to. Now the next fight on this card is a male fight between featherweights Hakeem Dawodu. I never get his name right. So it's Hakeem Dawodu against Shane Burgos. Hakeem Dawodu and Shane Burgos. I am going to write this down on a piece of paper that this fight is not going to be, or it's not going to go 3 rounds. This is a 3-round fight, and there is a knockout or a TKO written all over it. I'm telling you, Shane Burgos, man, as excited he looks and as excited he seems like when he's fighting, Hakeem Dawodu is no joke, man. Both of these, Hakeem Dawodu has 12-1 record in the UFC or in the MMA, and then Shane Burgos has 13-2 record. So Shane Burgos lost in the UFC only. The last fight he lost to Josh Emmett, and the other one before that he lost to Kelvin Kattar. So both of those fighters are great fighters, but this fight has a knockout written all over it. Now, then the next fight is in the women flyweight division, which is Jessica Ai versus Joanna Calderwood. All right, guys, I think Jessica Ai, though she's good, but she she was knocked out by the champion Valentina Shevchenko, but I think Jessica I certainly needs to work on her stand-up abilities. Just as looking at the other women in her division, in the flyweight division, and just looking at the champ, and when I compare that to Jessica I's abilities, she's good with the grappling, she's good with wrestling, but man, and she just comes up so stiff sometimes, where her feet are so flat, she's not on the toes. And one rule of fighting is you have to be on the toes, right? So this is one rule of the boxing, I know. So I think Joanna Calderwood winning it, probably on the decision. This fight can go on a decision, but not going to be an interesting fight for the fight fans who just loves knockout blood. Yeah, there could be blood, but yeah, it's not going to be a knockout or TKO in this one. So, or actually submission. So I think this is going to be good. Now the next fight, which is your co-main event of the evening. All right, so this fight is between Dan the Hangman Hooker and Michael Chandler. Alright, so Michael Chandler, is coming from a different organization, which is Bellator, which is one of the top 2 organizations in the MMA and publicly known organizations. Now, Michael Chandler used to be a champion in Bellator, and he had been in the Bellator for probably around 7-8 years. And he won the championship. Then he won his last fight, which was against Benson Henderson, and he won that by a KO or TKO, right? So he finished Benson Henderson, which is no joke. He used to be a champion in UFC. So yeah, Michael Chandler, and huge eyes are going to be on Michael Chandler, man, because Michael Chandler was given a backup position when Khabib Nurmagomedov fought Justin Gaethje on UFC 254 card. So I think this is going to be great test for Michael Chandler, and to just cement his position in this lightweight division, because as till now people are taking him seriously, and I love that guy. Great exciting fighting style, like he can knock you out, he can submit you, he can just ground and pound you to the oblivion. But yeah, I think Michael Chandler is going to be a very good prospect if he surpasses this guy who's going to be a Kiwi, who's going to be in front of him on the night of UFC 257, who is Dan the Hangman Hooker, man. So Dan Hooker is coming off a loss to Dustin Poirier, but that was the fight of the night, or actually fight of the year contender, and I think that fight actually was number 2 on the fight of the year contender. Now Dan Hooker is 20-9, and he won a lot of his fights. He used to fight at featherweight, then he moved to lightweight and looked great in the lightweight, but he just lost one fight to Dustin Poirier, the last one. Man, that guy, Dustin or Dan Hangman Hooker, that guy is scary, man. His jabs, his punches are like sniper. And one of the things that Michael Chandler relies a lot on is his wrestling. And Dan Hangman Hooker is so big, he's so tall for this weight division, that and Michael Chandler is not that tall. He's somewhat, he's a stockier, smaller guy. And this is going to be a difference in this fight. Now, I do think this fight will go to distance, and this is a 3-round fight, so this can go to a distance. But if not, I think Michael Chandler winning via submission or ground and pound, or Dan Hooker rather winning by a knockout. So this fight can go 3 ways. Michael Chandler can't get a knockout of Dan Hooker. There's no chance. And Dan Hooker cannot submit Michael Chandler. Now there's only 3 cases, man. Either if it goes to distance, it will be Michael Chandler via decision. And if it goes to a tap out or a choke, or just somebody just choking out, it is going to be Dan Hooker or Michael Chandler submitting Dan Hooker. And if there is a knockout, this is absolutely going to Dan Hooker's face, man, or Dan Hooker's arsenal, man, because he can knock you out anytime. He had a few of the knockouts in the UFC, and that guy is scary, man. Now, the main event and the one of the most anticipated fights of 2021, Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier. Conor McGregor is one of the superstars of UFC and actually of the MMA media, MMA work culture, or actually just the superstar of MMA in general. Now, everybody knows about who Conor McGregor is, and he's a pretty exciting and pretty different aura guy, different fighter, and just a stardom personality he has. And he's an Irish, he lives in Ireland, and he's been double champ in the UFC in the past. He was a double champ in the featherweight and the lightweight division. Now this fight is going to be at the lightweight, and now though this is a fight that is coming up, they both have fought earlier when they were not in their primes. So they fought maybe 5 years back or maybe 4 years back, and when they were both coming up, and Conor beat Dustin Poirier via TKO punches, and I think that was one of the deciding factors in Conor's game. And Dustin Poirier is good, man. Dustin Poirier is so good, and he looked so good in the lightweight division, where he beat Eddie Alvarez. He beat a lot of guys, man. He beat Max Holloway. He actually beat Justin Gaethje. He lost to Habib Nurmagomedov, but I think this fight is going to be a cracker of a fight. A lot of the people talk about Conor's ability to push in the later rounds and actually not able to put in the pace during round 4, 5, or even round 3. But Dustin Poirier, on the other hand, has improved so much, and people call it that he has improved so much. But I want to just bring out this thing on the forum, like, Dustin Poirier has always been good, man. Dustin Poirier is the same fighter. It's just that he got more hard now, and he's gotten good with his boxing, and also he's gotten good with his ability to roll over the punches. But one thing, and that is just me, who thinks that Dustin Poirier is missing on, is that he gets caught, man. He gets caught a lot, and that is one thing that I think would be a deciding factor in the first, second, and third round. And in the first and second round, if Conor catches you with the left paw he has, and obviously this is going to be Dustin on the southpaw and Conor on the southpaw stance, but if he catches you, and Dustin Poirier sometimes, just in order to give a counter strike or a counter attack, he stood up there and he just waits for that, that opening, man. Just a second here and there, and if Conor catches you with that left hook, or probably left straight on the jaw or maybe on the temple, it is going to be a night for Dustin Poirier. So in the nutshell, I believe Conor McGregor is going to get past Dustin Poirier and get back on the winning streak. So he won his last fight against Donald Cerrone back in January of 2020, which was the opening card for UFC, the pay-per-view. And he looked so good that he actually stopped Donald Cerrone in 40 seconds, which is insane, man. So just looking at the trend and the way Conor actually beat him in the past, and just the way that Conor looked and is actually looking so good, I feel that this is going to be 1 or 2 round fight where either of them can catch each other. But I think Conor, the chances and the likelihood of Conor getting that first punch in on the face that could just knock your light off is going to be insanely high. So Conor McGregor also is a favorite in this fight, probably plus 200 or plus 300 favorite. So I think this is going to be amazing fight for the fight fans, and just the return of Mystic Mac and return of the Notorious one in the win column, and actually on the top of the heap now. So I want to talk to you about the impact of MMA on my life and how it actually changed me, made me calmer, and brought a good spirit in me. So before this pandemic started, and I always wanted to train in MMA, but MMA in general in around the place where I live, I couldn't find good gyms, right? And I've been following MMA for around 4 to 5 years. So it was just it was just a type of, or it was actually more about finding the gym just to actually, or finding a coach just to actually get myself familiar with these concepts of different disciplines and just training in one particular discipline for the beginning. So before the pandemic started, I got myself enrolled in jiu-jitsu, and I wanted to go for the first class, but all of things happened suddenly and I couldn't train. I couldn't go to that gym. So I end up actually end up buying an online class on jiu-jitsu and just getting myself trained on that class, and I got a good concept of what exactly is the basis for it, and also just the theory or the theoretical concepts of jiu-jitsu in general. However, when this whole pandemic sort of settled down and now things started opening up, I got myself a coach in kickboxing, and I started doing boxing throughout the pandemic. So that was one of the things that I loved and I liked, just hitting things and hitting people, not generally or not necessarily people, but yeah, punching bag in general. So I got myself punching bag, and I got myself some gear, some gloves, and I got myself a coach who was actually more into the kickboxing. But yeah, I do train kickboxing 1 time a week. I do train boxing 2 times a week. I do a lot of and I don't necessarily currently not doing anything with jiu-jitsu, since jiu-jitsu is something that requires a training partner. So that is still pending. But yeah, I want you to understand the concept that just taking up some sort of hobby in your life, whether it's related to physical or mental, has impact on your, and does have impact on your life if you want it to be, right? So if you are somebody who just cringy sometimes, MMA is for you. And it doesn't matter, you don't have to kick people or don't have to punch people in the face. You just need to train yourself, learn something different. Just the cliche thing of going to gym, just building muscles and coming back. I mean, that is so good for somebody who's just starting up, but these we are working out for 30 minutes in a kickboxing class. I'm telling you, you're getting so much done than a 1.5 hour or more of a gymming session. So today's episode was all about MMA, UFC, some of the upcoming fights, return of the Notorious McGregor, and MMA's impact on my life and on my abilities to tackle these situations. Now, if you like the podcast, I want you to share this with your friends and family, and do subscribe to my channel. Go to the video description and follow me on Instagram. Probably, give me a few follows there. I shall see you next time.